Salve Omnibus. Today I'm here with my dog, Hunter. And we are going to be going through an article on Christianity Today called Sho Baraka, Black Communities' Problems Need Black Theology's Solutions. So, oh, my dog has just left. Fine, you're fired. Anyways, so we've already created the binary, a dualistic vision of the world, saying there are two Christianities, white Christianity and black Christianity. For this solutionary, okay, white evangelicalism only gets us so far. Because, I mean, we have different Bibles, right? There is the black and white Bible. One of them teaches about white supremacy. The other says that black people are inferior. There's another narrative we've neglected, black evangelicalism, because racializing everything is a great idea, isn't it? But anyways, I think, considering I am a white evangelical, I am the devil in their eyes, I might be able to lend some view, a new perspective on this. If you do a Google image search using the term theologian, you'll be met by a host of faces, some familiar, some strange. Augustine, Luther, Barth, Keller. Whether ancient or still living, remembered or forgotten, they stand within the frames of icons, portraits, and photographs as the de facto mediators of our faith. And they're only done so because they're all white supremacists, right? Not because they actually had good theology. They are the articulators of our doctrines and the formulators of our practice, but I'm not a Lutheran. The guides to whom many of us turn when our faith is put to the test. They are also almost exclusively white, and for rapper, writer, and self-described solutionary, okay, well, that's what you want to call yourself. Go ahead. I won't say that that's not a real word or anything, but Sho Baraka, that fact has earth-shattering implications because you made it that way. You could have just ignored the race and accept them as good theologians. Especially for non-white Christians, because, you know, Japanese Christians and black Christians and white Christians, only one of these things is not like the others. Baraka has a deep appreciation for the church's theological legacy. Obviously not if he's only going to focus on the skin color of the individuals. However, as a black... Alright, I hate this phrase. I'm going to have to do my own... This is its own separate video about identity politics. Never begin anything with the phrase "as a," because that's identity politics in a nutshell. It's saying this identity that I cling to, that's what's the most important. I'm going to use this as the pretext for any statement I'm going to make. As a black Christian, although when it's something like as a liberal or as a conservative or as a Christian, this is not an identity per se in the same way race or gender is. You can do that, but don't say as a black Christian like that means something, whose work often responds to racial injustice. You mean social justice and lies that you've been told by the progressives that control academia and the media and the government. He's also seen how that tradition has tended to address the concerns of white believers exclusively. We teach white people nowadays a different message than black people, right? I mean, our Jesus is very different. Purposefully alter the words of Jesus. When you go to some white evangelical church, it's basically like they go, Jesus said love the poor, unless they're black, you know? White people are the best. That's exactly what we teach in these churches. And often at the expense of their black brothers and sisters, as opposed to their Christian brothers and sisters, who transcend race and culture. But, to use his voice, we've neglected the narrative within the black context to try and engage ourselves or indoctrinate ourselves into the white evangelicalism. There is no white evangelicalism, you moron. You can't define it. You can't provide any specifics of what defines it. It just happens to be the fact that most evangelicals are white, because most people in America or countries where there is evangelicalism are white. At least the countries you live in. In my community, where it is like 97% black, Well, hey, only 3% to go, and you'll be in space. The apologetics that we need to deal with are issues that Moody's not teaching about. Well, teach it yourself. Westminster's not teaching us how to deal with the 5%ers, to deal with Hebrew Israelites, to deal with the Nation of Islam. Well, I have a feeling that they actually are, and what you're proposing would just do the exact same thing. See, what those groups are African separatist supremacist groups that are co-opting religions to serve black supremacy. You probably, any organization you would follow would basically do that with Christianity. You would have a black supremacist Christianity, a black version of the KKK. Is this what you want? Because the, quote, white evangelicals, unquote, that you hate so much are actually preaching what would stop these. They are preaching the things that would make it so there is no Nation of Islam or Hebrew Israelites. They're preaching that we should not focus on race. We should stop making everything about racial identity. That we should look at each other as individuals, as brothers and sisters in Christ, not black or white brothers and sisters in Christ, because the race will tear us apart, and we can clearly demonstrate that. They'll give you a good foundation of biblical understanding, but when we're talking about engaging in these conversations and dealing with all the things that are prevalent in our community, yeah, what you think are prevalent, not what everyone thinks are prevalent, and there is more than one community. It's anemic. Why? They're teaching the gospel of Jesus. How is this anemic? The resources are anemic. What, them handing out money to the poor? But people are so concerned with getting at the table of the white evangelicals. Look, mate, I'm pretty sure that because of those idiots like Russell Moore, people are now running away from that table because they've been fed a whole bunch of lies. They ignore the plights in their community. You mean like because the white community, the poor white community, faces absolutely no problems. I grew up in a house where Nation of Islam was taught. My mom remarried and married a dude who was part of the Nation of Islam, so I grew up listening to Farrakhan. I grew up listening to a lot of Malcolm X. I read the autobiography of Malcolm X when I was young. That might explain a lot. These are things that I grew up believing, that Christianity was a white man's religion, that it was the religion of our oppressors, and you still believe that. And why would any black person want to follow in the religion of the oppressor, right? Christianity was forced on Africans, just like Islam was, which was not true, but I believed this for the longest period of time. Well, that's the problem with black identity politics. You make everything about black versus white. Think about this for a second, please. The white Christianity, quote unquote, that you're deriding is the thing that would fix this, that does not look at race. You are the one focusing on it all the time. It's attitudes like that why Malcolm X and Nation of Islam and Farrakhan exist. Do you want a Christian form of this? The reason I was so late to the discussion in that particular apologetic was, well, probably because, it wasn't popular at the time, but I was concerned with sitting up at the table with the John Pipers and the Tim Kellers and the D.A. Carsons. I mean, those guys are probably just complete white supremacists, right? They would never sit down with a black person. I bet they vote for Donald Trump. Well, I guess that's another nail in the coffin of Christians trying to deal with race, because when we do, we sound like complete idiots, and we have no idea what we're talking about. And I think it's funny that essentially this moron is pointing out in his own article, he's disproved his own premise. When black people start making things about black and white, they'll make supremacism and separatist movements. That's how Nation of Islam got started. You can't, if you try it with Christianity, with a black evangelicalism or a black Christianity contrasted against white evangelicalism, you will just have the white devil again, and you'll have a militant, separatist, supremacist, black Christianity. I don't think this is a good idea. I bet he doesn't think this is a good idea, but this is the natural progression of where his ideas will take him. He has already acknowledged this, with Judaism being co-opted by black supremacists and Islam being co-opted by black supremacists. Why is it different with Christianity? In any case, I have to go rehire my dog that I fired. Well, I'm signing off. Diabana.
Wir wollen unseren alten Kaiser Wilhelm wieder. Wir wollen unseren alten Kaiser Wilhelm wieder. Aber den mit dem Bart, mit dem langen Bart. Aber den mit dem Bart, mit dem langen Bart. So schwärmten unsere Eltern von der guten alten Zeit. Sie liegt so fern und weit, die alte Kaiserzeit. Doch war sie wirklich besser, diese gute alte Zeit, als einst der Opa, die Oma hat wohl gefeit. Ja, mit Jagdgesang und mit Hörnerklang, rings um Fair Berlin, durch die Wälder ziehen. Ja, mit Jagdgesang und mit Hörnerklang, ritt die Oma mit dem Opa. Doch sie hielten an und küssten sich, sonst wären wir heute nicht da.